Today's quote Today's quote is by Sara Blakely. More on her later. But today's quote is by Sara Blakely, and it says, "Don't be intimidated by what you don't know." The quote goes on to say, "That can be your greatest strength and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else." I'll repeat the whole quote again. "Don't be intimidated by what you don't know. That can be your greatest strength and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else." There's something to be said for having a fresh mindset when approaching a task. A fresh mindset, a clean slate, no preconceived notions.
Clean slate protocol, sir?
No prior experience. You approach it fresh.
I guess I just wanted a new world. I don't know, a fresh start.
When my wife and I were having our first child, we had our first child. Our son's name's Carson. My dad's advice to us has been my advice to other new parents along the way. He said to me, "New babies are made for new parents. They go together." He said, "Old parents have old ways. And sometimes it's better to approach parenting fresh." They didn't have car seats when my dad was parenting. Car seats were mandatory. We had to have somebody from the fire station make sure that the fire seat was locked in properly when we were taking our child home from the hospital. They didn't have the boppy or the bumbo chair or the bouncer when my dad and my mom were parenting. If we just did it the way they did it, some 20, almost 30 years removed, we would not be able to take advantage of everything else that we have learned in those 20, 30 years. There are companies who seek out people who have never used their product, goods, or services just so they can get the perspective of seeing it fresh again. I remember I often look around the live streaming community and I try to figure out what are some of the new platforms that are out there. Many come and go. I want to tell you this. Many come and go. They disappear overnight. Some of them, they kind of come up like a flash and then they go away. Several of the ones that I have, affiliates for, StreamYard, Ecamm, EVMux, Restream, they are standard bearers. They have been in this space for a long time and they're not going anywhere. Even yesterday, somebody on the live asked me about Prism Live, which is a whole new platform that I do intend on testing, but I do this from time to time. I test, and my preference, I've actually talked with brands about this. I said, my preference is I don't want to hear any of your ideas. I don't want to hear your perspectives on how you're doing it different. I don't want to hear the list of things that make yours the breakout platform. I just want a test account and I want to go at it fresh. And I remember when I was doing this with EVMux, when EVMux first came out, I came across it. I started doing some little testing. I made sure I got my test account, and then I went live, and I was testing the platform, a platform that I had never used before. And my audience grew. I mean, the live audience was like 30, 40 on this particular evening as I was testing out this new platform. And my audience tagged EVMux. EVMux being a small company at this point, their founder came in the chat and started talking to us. And then I actually brought their founder onto the show. And here's the clincher. He was coming to, help me to navigate and, stack and stage and understand where everything is. But do you know, he learned stuff there with me on that live show because I was approaching it from a fresh perspective. I have a couple of philosophies that have served me well in my business, in my content creation, in my live streaming, in my remote production, but they've served me well in life. And one of them is learn it in the morning and teach it in the evening. Teaching solidifies what you've learned. Another philosophy is say yes and figure out how to do it so that you can take advantage of the opportunity. The inherent in the quote is this trepidation that I don't know what I'm doing. Don't be intimidated by what you don't know. Look at it as an opportunity. It could be the difference maker for how you approach said thing. It's a shift in perspective. But inherent in the quote is this idea that, oh, I see these other people, they look like they know what they're doing, and I don't know what I'm doing. And here's my news flash for you today. Everyone is trying to figure it out. Literally, everyone is trying to figure it out. So what if doing things you don't know is a skill you can actually learn? Oh boy. like being able, having a framework and a strategy for approaching unknown spaces is a muscle that you can utilize and train so that you can do this quicker every time you get another opportunity. Have you ever seen a blind person map a new space? Because here's the real thing for the blind person. It can't be shown to them. Oh gosh. A blind person, you can't say, okay, this is your new space. Let me help you map it. No, a blind person must map it themselves. And I learned this morning, it's done by using orientation and mobility skills. Orientation and mobility skills. They call it O&M. Orientation is the actual planning of how to get to and from places. Blind and visually impaired people use these other senses like sound, touch, and smell to orient themselves to their surroundings. They sometimes know the space better than those who can see. They can sometimes better anticipate that the space has changed, the air has changed, the temperature has changed, somebody has moved something better than those who can see. And by their very lived experience, they are developing skills that help them tackle the unknown. Our quote today is by Sara Blakely. But do you know who Sara Blakely is? An American businesswoman and philanthropist. She's the founder of Spanx. Shorty's net worth is $1.1 billion. And she says to us this morning, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. It can be your greatest strength and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else. You know, one of the challenges they say for parents like me who have middle schoolers, kids who are in the 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade, that 6th, 7th, 8th space, kids who are in that 12, 13, 14 space. You know what they say is the challenge for us? The challenge for us is that the jobs that these middle schoolers will occupy, they don't exist currently. And so the challenge is, what do we teach this generation? What degree plan do you pursue when the likelihood of you not ever doing the job you will inhabit before is sky high? And the answer is, it's about the approach to doing new things. How are you? These are the questions I have as we get ready to land today. How are you preparing for unknown opportunities? Have you developed a system for learning new spaces on the fly? What unique perspectives and views do you bring to new things that enable you to ask better questions? Approach from a different angle and give you a leg up on gathering the most information in a short amount of time. Here it is. What if I told you an opportunity of a lifetime, literally your breakout moment, is coming next month, but you've never done it before? What would you do? How would you prepare? Or would you shrink back into your comfort zones, into your known spaces, and miss the opportunity altogether? Sara Blakely challenges us this morning to not be intimidated by what we don't know. And then she says, shift your perspective from being intimidated to rather seeing the fact that you don't know as your greatest strength. And seek to approach the opportunity from a different angle than everyone else. That, my friends, is your morning motivation.